Suneera Madhani. Suneera Madhani.
Without much further ado, I'd like to welcome Suneera.
Hi, I'm Suneera Madhani, a mom of two, daughter of an immigrant, and an unlikely entrepreneur who built a billion-dollar business. Yes, billion. Now I'm doing it again and building my second unicorn, Worth. Shockingly, less than 2% of female founders ever reach 1 million in revenue, and I'm on a mission to change that. At CEO School, we mentor thousands of women to help them level up in business and in life. We believe that you deserve to have it all because honestly, nothing bad happens when women make more money. Grab a seat because class is officially in session. Welcome to CEO School. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the CEO School podcast. I'm your main host, Suneera Madhani, but I keep bringing in others with me to the show. Every time I come into the studio, I feel like we come up with a new concept. We want to do, something different every time. And that's why I'm loving this season. I hope you're absolutely loving this season. And if you're caught up, the last 3 episodes, honestly, were just chef's kiss, if I must say. We got to share the raw, the real on just full transformation, mind, body, soul, 2-year-long journey for myself. And I invited my dear friend and podcast manager, who is sitting in the background, of course, today, Carolina. And we discussed all the things and didn't hold anything back. I was super nervous about putting it all out there, but that's what this audience is for. I get to be my most vulnerable self to you. If you don't like to listen to it, it is a podcast. This is where we get to also be real and have fun. And that's something that I thought was missing, of like the true rawness. And with that, I enjoyed the last few episodes so much. So if you haven't had a chance to go tune in and catch up, please go catch up. And on today's episode, we have been asking all of you, the audience, so if you haven't done so or haven't noticed, if you follow along on my stories, every time we post up about the episode, we're also allowing you guys to interact with us and interact with me directly on questions you have, your things that you want us to further talk about, and just topics, things, and just interaction and engagement back and forth so that all of you can be part of the story here every single week. And with that, we compiled a list of your deepest, darkest, juiciest questions. And I received the list from the podcast, my podcast team today. And they're like, here's what you are answering. And I almost spit out my coffee coming in of like, I can't read this out loud and ask myself these questions. It was supposed to be a solo episode of me answering. And so I've invited my photographer here on set, Ashley. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God. I'm so glad that you are here. Because I'm like, I can't ask myself the questions, and nobody else wanted to come on camera. And you look so fabulous as always.
Thank you so much. You're always so kind. You're always complimenting me. I appreciate that.
But I genuinely mean it. Like, you are literally the coolest person that works at ILO.
I think our founders are going to have
They're really cool.
One founder, to be exact.
They're really cool. But
They're
Ashley, so if you don't know about Ashley, I'm going to link all of her stuff right here.
Thank you.
Ashley is my wonderful photographer. She is an incredible creative artist. She does all the cool things. She definitely dresses the part as a creative. If you're listening and you can't see her, she's wearing like a really cool old school J-Lo vibe hat right now. She's always got cool shoes on. She just has like the cool person that I want to be inside.
Oh gosh.
And I think honestly, until recently, I learned that you have 2 kids.
I have 2 kids.
You have 2 kids. I literally just assumed you were 22 years old. And you could be 22.
And most people do. And that's okay too.
Yeah. But you're just so cool.
Thank you.
And so Ashley's been taking all of the most amazing, if you got a chance to see the covers, like all my primary shoots for the podcast cover. Ashley has shot them all. She's got the most beautiful eye behind the camera. And I love working with you.
And it's always so much fun. You kill it. You kill it every time at every shoot.
Well, with that, so I'm going to invite you to be my co-host
I know.
today.
This is going to be so much fun because I get to ask you like the crazy questions, the daring, juicy questions that everyone wants to know.
I'm kind of nervous.
Do you feel like people, when they get a chance to speak with you, they even have like the audacity or the nerve to ask you like juicy questions? Or is this like, this is the one and only time like people get to hear?
I think I want to understand the definition of the word juicy. So
True.
I think there's some context there.
Okay.
I think that I'm very honest. So if
Yeah.
you're going to ask me something, I don't think I can remember a time where I won't like truthfully just give you the answer. But I would say most of the time when I'm interviewed, it's on a podcast or on stage or in front of an audience. So they're usually more professional.
Right.
And inspirational, more about the founder's journey. And then I think I get asked a little bit more of like the juicy or the personal questions or like just the deeper, darker ones when I'm around women at the table, like on the table. So if we're like at a dinner, I'm at a women's event.
A more intimate setting, a little less formal.
Yes. And so that's when I think like people will take the chance and be like, so how does it actually work? And so I think that's when I get asked a little bit more of the fun stuff or the personal questions, but I'm always willing to answer them. Some of those, though, I don't think anyone has ever asked me. So I'm very proud of our audience for even typing those up.
These are good questions.
Okay.
And I mean, you already said it. You're going to be honest.
Okay.
You're going to be fully transparent. So are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. We'll start slow. We won't go to like the juiciest yet. And by juicy, I do mean just less formal, less about, your basic questions as a CEO. But what people want to know, to kick us off, after you sold your $1 million business, did you have a treat yourself moment? What was the most extravagant or indulgent thing you did to celebrate?
Yeah. So after I sold my $1 billion business. $1 billion business. Yes, I definitely had a big shopping experience after the transaction. But I would say it's not the first time that I do that. I've kind of always treated myself in milestones. It's just, I'm a girly girl. I think that I remember I've always bought Chanel for an occasion. So I've never just been like, I'm just going to go and just buy something for the sake of buying it at Chanel. It's always been, I've always purchased, a piece of jewelry or a brooch or a purse or something on occasions and moments. And so then I did that through my journey as a founder. I remember on my 100th employee, we were going into our holiday party, which we call the Best Damn Holiday Party every year at Stacks. So every year we had the Best Damn Holiday Party. And the year of our 100th employee, I signed the offer letter that morning. And that evening was our holiday party. And I was wearing a really pretty black velvet dress. And it was around 5 o'clock when I was getting ready. And I felt like something was missing. And I remember I'm like, well, I did sign my 100th employee. And so I literally went over to the mall right before going into the party. And I got myself a really pretty Chanel pin to put onto that dress.
I love it.
But I took Mila with me. Mila was maybe 4. And so I try to incorporate my girls in the moments and in the milestones. And I do believe in celebrating even in those small wins. But that's just one tiny example of all the different milestones. And I could tell you everything when I wear things. I can tell you where I bought them, why I bought them, who gifted them to me, what occasion it was for. So I love doing that. But post-transaction, so going back to your question, we definitely celebrated. We took a really big friends trip to Bahamar. Was it's a place that I love to go with my family. It's amazing, and it's a resort in the Bahamas. And we did this really awesome celebration trip with our friends. And so I love treating my friends and family.
That's awesome.
And so I think that that's what makes celebrations the most amount of fun. It's not about the things, it's about the moments.
Right.
And so that was the big trip. And I did splurge on a few things. And one of the things actually it's really fun is I bought my brother a watch to commemorate the transaction. So my boys, my brother and my husband are big watch guys.
Love it. And
the watch, so I ended up getting a watch for him for the transaction, which was this black Rolex. And see, I can't even tell you the name. I think it's a Yachtmaster Rolex. And I should have it on today. Actually, I don't have it on today. I took it off today because I'm wearing black and I always wear that watch. But I ended up buying him this watch. And when I was giving it to him, he literally was like, no way when he was opening it, because he bought the same watch for me for the transaction.
You guys were just connected.
No, and we've been talking about that was a watch that but I didn't know that there was a unisex version. There was a smaller 36 millimeter version of it. Look at me talking about watches.
Look
and
at
the
you.
36 millimeter. Yeah.
Watch girly.
So he got me that watch. And so that watch was a commemoration of that transaction. So
That's
when I
really
think of that
sweet.
transaction, I think of that. And I can name every transaction there before, every bonus. One of my first bonuses that I got post when I was in like when the company was doing well, which took like 7 years, by the way, where I was
Right.
making like sub $50,000,
Yeah.
putting every dollar I had into the business. And so it wasn't always, you know, it was hard, like with all the things that were going on. But one of my first bonuses on our big year, I had with my board, I had a salary, but then I had a bonus structure based on how much, if I accelerated revenue goals based on whatever. So I had an accelerator on the revenue goals. And I love when I have incentive comp to go do something. And this is a pro tip for any managers or any founders: incentivize your employees with incentive comp. They're going to perform way better. And even as a founder, when I had a board, that was, I think, really smart and strategic of them to put accelerators even on my compensation, even though I had such equity ownership in it.
Sure.
And I received my first ever 6-figure bonus. And that for me was life-changing.
Yeah.
And we were able to put the down payment onto like our home
That's amazing.
with that. And so, you know, there's definitely the fun, the shopping, but I
Sure.
always try to be meaningful with the shopping.
Yep.
And do the best I can with like
Yeah.
what's the next big thing for our
They're
family.
very thoughtful or like related to milestones in your
Yeah.
life. So, which is fine. I mean, if you
Yeah.
wanted to splurge, you could totally splurge.
You can
But
totally
I love
splurge.
that
I splurged too.
you put thought and meaning behind it as well. I think that's so cool. Okay, well, speaking of career, we're still in a career kind of based question. We have someone who asked, what's the most daring or risky decision that you've made in your career that had everyone around you questioning your sanity, but you knew that it was the right move?
Oh my God. This one's so easy.
Okay.
So easy. Leaving my job.
Okay.
Like both jobs. Okay. So I feel like every time I'm ready to like quit something, and
Yeah.
it's not often because I'm like a see it all the way through.
Okay.
I saw everything all the way through.
Yeah.
I was 10 years into my career as CEO. I still love my company, the first one. And I did my job. I did my role. But at some point it started to become it wasn't the vision that I had at this point, right? So I already accomplished all the things, even taking it beyond $100 million in revenue, like grew the business, 400 plus employees. We did multiple acquisitions. We did all the things besides taking the company public. So the only thing that would have been like, you know, the next carrot for me would have been taking the company public, but that was not in our cards for the next like near future of the company.
Okay.
And so with that, I kind of came to a place where I wasn't, you know, unhappy is the wrong word, but it started to feel I wasn't creative in my role anymore. It was the day-to-day of just managing the business, managing the employees. There was always something. And I really just didn't have fun in my role at that point. And I wasn't incentivized in a way, or I had already received, you know, every recognition, every accolade, everything that I was striving towards, I achieved it for that company. And so it was really hard to continue down. I think that's when the why really gets lost. And so because I'd already done the things, I already took care of the employees, I already took care of, like, we already made, you know, we achieved and crossed off every single wish list that we had.
Sure.
And so for the last 2 years, like post the transaction in 2020, and then there was another transaction in 2021, it was hard to just put the hat back on of just like showing up for the day to day. And I wasn't motivated by another paycheck. I wasn't motivated by more shares or more money. And so that's when I decided to, you know, that I no longer wanted to be CEO. And I had actually requested, and I can remember this meeting so well. It was our October board meeting, which every year I go to Money 2020, and I had a conversation with, you know, the head of the board and said that I want to move into a chairman position and I want to, you know, not be CEO anymore. And I felt really supportive in that moment. That, okay, it'll be okay. I don't think it ended up being that way, but I think I was definitely ready. But people did question my sanity of like, why would I leave so much left, which was mostly just dollars on the table. But I knew it, that it was time, and it was a hard decision, but I'm so grateful because it gave me an opportunity to really recalibrate, to reset. it was really hard to shed my identity as well. Like when you're so attached to your work being your worth, it's hard. And that's what we attach, right? Our work is our worth.
Right.
Currently, that's how society in the US especially. And so I really had to separate myself from that and then go on this pretty big journey that I went on, which you guys heard the last 3 episodes on. So my health is amazing. My mindset is amazing. And when I was able to free up all of that, I was able to be creative again and then come up with like the next big like idea and venture. And so it wasn't about working hard. It's not that I wanted to retire.
Sure.
I just needed to find that passion again and that why again. And so the last 2 years have been in search of that. And I'm like really excited and in a place of this time coming from a place of experience, but just as rejuvenated as I was when I was 26 years old.
And I'm sure that feels so refreshing.
It does.
But you mentioned something, and I want to go back to it because our next question has something to do with that. You were talking about just kind of losing the joy, losing the fun, the creativity, and the role that you were in. Someone asked, what is the worst part about being a CEO? So in your most like transparent, like take all the filters off, what are the things that suck about being a CEO? Because everyone sees like the glitz and the glam and the like the title and whatnot, but like what about it do people like not realize like this is crappy? I don't like this.
Yeah, I think that the honest answer is, and I think this is being a CEO, this is being a business owner, this is being a founder. The worst part, there's so many greats that come with it. But the hardest part, I would say that I think the outside world just doesn't understand is that you become a CEO or a founder to, you know, your vision is that you get, you know, the freedom of dollar, the freedom of time, but you're actually working 24/7. And so you're leaving your 9 to 5 to actually work 24/7. It's the job that never turns off. And so I think that a lot of new founders, and there's that passion, there's that excitement, there's that joy, everyone gets really excited. But then why businesses don't last or they don't succeed is because it does require a lot of resiliency. And that it's all the, you know, not every day and not, you know, you're not always in that what you envision, right? The stuff that we see online and you get to see the fabulous life of a CEO, which is so incredible, which offers, you know, so many benefits and so much luxury and so many of the things, but you don't see the 99% of it that doesn't go on screen. Right. Which is that you're making payroll, you have everyone's responsibility on you. You know, every word that you say matters, right? So you're not just accountable for yourself, but you know, your decisions affect so many others, and that's a really large responsibility. And so, you know, like that old adage goes, with great power comes great responsibility. Right. That responsibility, there is no like, you can't check out of it. And so many times, I bet, you know, so many founders feel that way. It's like sometimes when you're in that seat, you're like, I wish I could go back and actually just check out of my job. Like I can't ever go on vacation and just be like, I'm fully checked out. You can't clock out. You're always on the clock. Wow. And so I wouldn't say it's the worst part, but I would say it's one of the hardest parts about being CEO or being a founder. Yeah. And I think most people realize it a little too late. And I wish they understood that up front before starting the business.
Do you think you would have gone into...
No, I would have because
knowing
also no, I'll do it all day, every day, all over again. Because I do think that some people there are people that are able to do it. Like, and that's just how the world works. Like that's it. Everybody has roles. And I really do believe in, you know, if you last episode, like the spiritual side of things. And, you know, there are like, I do believe in human design and the way that the world works. And some people are, you know, generators and doers and manifesting generators. And so I do believe everyone has their part in the world to make it go. And I know that this is my part. My part is to lead, and this is what I do best. And so I've learned how to compartmentalize that stress. I've learned how to create systems and to build teams around me to support me in that. And that's why I love doing what I get to do here, because I want everyone who puts their foot in to be successful. Yeah. And I do think that now we have more of a shot at being successful because we have so much opportunity to learn. That's what I think is so cool about being in today's age of technology and being in today's age of podcasting and digital courses and just connectivity, global connectivity, that we can actually learn anything. And so if you have that growth mindset, I don't believe people are born leaders, actually. So people ask like that, are you naturally a born leader or your kids? I think that leadership is taught. I think that it's based on experience. And I think anyone can be a leader. But I think that now is a great time for us to be able to share that knowledge. And that's what's been held back for so long, and especially for women. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. But yeah, I do think that I would do it all over again, all day, every day, every day. Because it's fun. I wouldn't want to not be challenged. It's just how my brain works.
Well, speaking about like women, there's controversies, right? And I'm sure this could be a podcast of its own about the working woman, the working wife, and the working mom. Please tell us how you have been able to stay in your feminine energy. And this is on a personal level, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, we come from a world where CEOs, that's usually like a masculine thing, right? But like, how do you stay in your feminine energy at home, even though the role you play in your career is kind of known as something a bit more masculine?
Yeah, I love this question. This is such a good question. Whoever asked this, it's a good one. For the earliest part of my career, I always used to say that I was a man in a skirt. So I think just naturally, if you don't have a seat at the table, you try to almost transform yourself to be like everyone else. Like think about that in elementary school and in high school, right? Like we're just trying to, be part of the table.
Right.
And so you almost take a look at yourself and you're like, okay, what do I need to be like so that I could be part of this clique or be part of this table? And it's just like the wrong way to view the world. And I wish we had more confidence in ourselves to just be ourselves, right? That's the advice that I want my kids to have. That's probably the same advice my parents gave to me.
Yeah.
But we all go through that journey of if you don't have a seat at the table, you're trying to find a way to have a seat at the table. And so in the business world, I felt like I had to be in my masculine energy because the feminine energy was not resonating. And so I almost felt like I had to mask that. And so many times I can think of where just naturally in my career, even in my corporate career, I had a sales position prior and I had like male leaders and they would comment on me wearing skirts to the office or like, and not in like we're in a public facing role. And it's like, I can name some like really harsh examples. And I'll just name one. I one time went to a conference for my old company and I had a male leader that was like 2 hires up, had to like come to my boss and come tell me that I should probably change. I've never worn anything inappropriate. I'm a conservative girl by nature. So I'm never wearing anything ever revealing or something short or anything like that. But I had on the cutest Tory Burch. I remember because I splurged all my money on these Tory Burch boots. And I was so excited to wear them. It was a fall conference. And I had on a skirt that was like right to my knees, so right underneath my knees, but my boots were right to the knees as well. And the kind of girl that I am, I've always been fashion forward. So I stand out in a room, right? I stand out in a room. And so I think I might have had on a colorful blouse, but I had on a black skirt with these like black boots. And I don't know what it was, but it was so inappropriate. And somebody had to come find me and come tell me. And then they sent this other like female executive who I'd never worked with or had, it was just like this really awful feeling situation. And I felt like I did something completely wrong by being in my feminine.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's probably like my first career, like my first job out of school. And so that's just one example. And I can name countless examples of moments like that I feel like I then had to almost subdue my personality and be quiet, which for me, fashion is something that I like love. I've always loved to express myself with.
Sure.
And so through my career, then I became very muted, and especially in my early startup journey as well, and being in finance and being in the boys club. And the only time that like my feminine would come out. So this is why like I've always been in suits, but then I started to wear colored suits because I could still dress my part, but just have this a little fun. And that sounds awful. Like even right now, I'm going through an entire I feel like I've had a real glow up even in like my dressing and everything. I'm just in like in a different space, and I'm like I honestly want to wear more dresses to work. Like I don't wear dresses to work, but that's because since I've been 20 and in the workforce, I've been taught how to dress like a man.
You have to like unlearn all of that now.
No, it's ludicrous. And so that's some parts of it. And I'm not just talking about dress-wise being masculine. I'm talking about masculine energy, right? So being at these conferences, like I'm always around men. There's so many instances where I'm like the only woman in the room. I've gotten constantly hit on as well by peers and colleagues, knowing that I'm married, knowing that I have kids, like just because we're like, it's a late night, it's a conference, and what's the bro culture? Everyone's drinking, everyone's at the bar. Like it's how I'm getting deals done. It's not designed. It just hasn't been that way. So either I'm fitting in and getting the deals done, or I'm not getting the deals done. And so I've naturally had to step into this. I know how to take care of myself. I know how to have the conversations. I know how to have the boundaries. I know when it's time to go to my room. And it's almost like I've excused the behavior for so long, right? Because I'm also the noisy one. I'm also the feminist of the group. I'm also trying to invite more women to this stuff. So I'm already the noisy one. And so how do you strike that balance, actually? Like, how do you strike that balance? Because then I'm like not only the noisy, I'm not going to get invited back.
Right.
So where does that and I don't know. I don't have like the perfect answer for it. But this is the stuff that like I don't know where to share, how to share. But men need to also be better. Right. It's not just like, and I probably could be better by sharing more of it, but I'm also trying to balance getting like my deals done. I'm not, and I know I have to be at these conferences. I know it's going to take that extra dinner, that extra thing, the extra happy hour. And luckily, and I've been so blessed that I've had my brother as my partner. And so luckily he's always with me. So I don't like to go, I don't travel to stuff. I travel to many things on my own, but there are specific style conferences that I just know I'm like, all right, I've got,
calls out.
I had two male co-founders.
Yeah.
So I have great mentors that are in this space. And so I just kind of have almost hidden in my own way in that, but I've also been very masculine when I show up to these things. I've learned I never used to like whiskey. Now I drink whiskey. Like I almost like played the part too well, right? And then going back, you asked me about my home life.
Yeah, how does that affect your personal life?
Oh my God, I'm so glad. I hate being in the masculine, actually.
Okay.
So because I'm in the masculine at work, and I'm actually trying to lean into my feminine now.
Okay.
So over the last few years, post all the things, it's been something that I'm actively like, I just want to be sunny, and I want to be super feminine, and I want to lead in my full feminine, and I want to be demure.
Cutesy.
Yeah, I do. But at home, I feel like I drop that hat so fast. Like as soon as I'm coming home, like I want to be I want my man to be masculine.
Yeah.
That is how like I take decisions all day. I'm in charge all day. At home, I love that I'm taken care of.
Yeah.
And I want to be like, I'm all about my gender roles like at home.
Really?
So I'm not taking out the garbage. Can I take out the garbage? Will I take out the garbage? Yes. Girls can take, can I fix something? Like I remember Anna built, there's like this one dollhouse toy. And then Faisal was like, well, why doesn't your mom? Because girls can do anything, right? And I'm like, oh my God, mother, I am so exhausted. And he didn't want to do it. And so then he pulls out that card and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Mom's going to build this dollhouse with you, and I'm going to pull out the tools. And I did the thing, and it was awful. I do not want to build shit. Can I do it? And can I follow the dumb instructions? Yes. Sure. But I do not want to be in that. I want to be in my total feminine at home and be a wife and be a mother. And I don't, even when I go out to like a restaurant, Faisal will, like even things like I don't want to order. Yeah. Like I don't want any decisions. Like I want him to just take care of me. And I just want to snuggle up and like just have like, I don't know. I just want that. That's how I like our roles.
And you've been able to do that successfully. Like you're able to just take that like hat off, if you will. And when you come home, like it's never been a challenge or like something that you have to think about.
Faisal wouldn't agree with that. He wouldn't agree with that. If he was here, I would say that's how I like to be.
Okay.
I would say in the areas that I do feel like I've got to take charge and where there might be where we've gotten better about is I just have to fully trust in not micromanaging him on stuff that we do share. So we don't work together, but over the years, we've obviously have built so much together. So we've got multiple businesses, we've got investments, we've got our family office. So there's so many shared things that we do. and he's the CEO. And so I just have to let him make those decisions and be fully in charge. And I think initially that was a struggle for me. Like at the home life I could, but in these shared business things in our relationship. It got
kind of gray.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, but why aren't we doing it like this? And like, this is how it's done. But that's not my role in this. So he's like, either you're going to be like, whatever we're going to be in charge of, then you be in charge of that. And whatever I'm going to be in charge of, then I'm going to be in charge of that. And I agree with that.
Okay.
And then the rest we just have to like fully trust. And so I would say that's kind of the gray area where there's business matters, finances, family office, investments. There's like this huge category of our life that overlaps that Faisal fully oversees, which is a lot. And so I've learned that I don't need to play my masculine in that. I can also play my feminine in that and let him lead us there too.
I love that. And it seems like he's very supportive of that.
Yeah, he's
ready to like
honestly,
take charge.
He's the greatest. He's such a good partner.
And you guys have been together for how long?
I've lost count. We've been married for 11 years and together for 4 years before. So 15 years.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. 2008.
Switching gears just a little bit from your personal life. Now pivoting back more so towards your career. Without naming any names, one of the questions is, have you encountered any shady business moves or backstabbing from competitors in your industry? If so, how did you rise above that?
Okay, constantly. Honestly, if you don't have having competitors means that you're doing something right.
Okay.
So I think that the first time that I could experience this was a company. I can name the name. So my company was Fat Merchant is when I started, and there was a competitor out in California. And I feel like every time that I would change anything on my website, their website would change. I would change pricing, their pricing would change. I would have, and there's so many of us that can relate to this. I see Carlina shaking her head. And imitation is a form of flattery. That means that they're paying attention. Right? They're paying attention. That means you're doing something right. And that's the constant. That's human nature by design. And even when I speak to when I'm in my coaching calls and I'm coaching entrepreneurs, I'm like, don't reinvent the wheel. Go see what your competitors are doing. Don't mimic it, but take a look at what are the industry averages. Like, don't do your pricing on your own, right? Like, why are you having to come up with it? So it's not a bad thing. But there was this one competitor that was constant. And then it started when they would bid against our name for Google. So they were like bidding, not only were they trying to like mimic us, but then they would bid against our name for competitive ads so that when a customer would search to come on to like buy our product, then they would say, look at ours, which is cheaper. And that was really frustrating. And what I did was I ended up acquiring them in 2019. So that was really
Boss
fun.
moves.
Yeah.
Drop the mic.
Yeah. That was the first company. When we did 2020, when we did the transaction in 2020 with the private equity group, they were really great at M&A, which is mergers and acquisitions. And the first company that I got to acquire was that first it was like the one that I wanted.
How did you feel about that? What was that?
Secretly, like amazing. No, it also made strategic sense. It was a really great business acquisition, but it was a nice win.
Yeah.
It was a nice win. It was a nice win. But it happens all the time. And I will say, so the human part of it, right? You can't acquire every company.
Sure.
I feel that way sometimes right now as well, right? So especially in the digital space or especially amongst femme communities, like we're super supportive. I feel like I know all of the most amazing communities. We all work together in different ways. But then sometimes like I do feel like, wait, we just launched this boot camp and they're doing this thing, or we just did this thing and now they're doing that thing.
Yeah.
So it does feel like there's a part of you inside that like you're like it just kills you a little bit. But at the same time, I think that you have to remember if you know your why strong enough and you know like at the end of the day whether it's like the self-work, right? So I know that my mission is to serve these entrepreneurs, and if I serve them, that's fantastic, but if someone else is serving them and getting the job done, that's also really amazing. And so I have to pull myself out of the surface level worldly shit, and you got to go deep inside. And that's when if you put in the work and the inner work, it stops bothering you.
Okay.
There's a moment of it that the human side of it, because we're human, and we've got that internal little monster. We named Anna's last night Freddie, by the way.
Freddie.
Yeah. So we all have a little monster inside that comes out, right? But we can like put him back because we've done the work and we're like, that's not me. That's just my it's the monster. And so we can be good humans, and there's plenty to go around. And I think that that's the one thing that I wish everybody had, that mentality, because there's so much to go around.
Yeah.
There's so much to go around for every industry. There's, billions and billions of people on earth that can buy your product or service. And so find your tribe, focus on your customers, focus on your differentiator, and that'll be okay.
Yeah.
And if you do have competitors, that's a great thing. And I actually think truly that even in the competitive space, if you can find collaboration, it actually lifts all tides. And so if you think about it, even if you're driving down I-4, if you see like they just opened up the, Aston Martin, the dealership, then the next one over is Maserati, right? So why do they put all the dealerships together?
Right next to each other.
They're competitors, right? So why are we going to Ferrari, Maserati, and Aston? They're literally all next to each other on I-4.
Right.
Why? Well, because you know that you're going to go, they can go, it doesn't matter. They're trying to attract that luxury buyer. He might or she might stop into each showroom and make one purchasing decision, but at least all options are there, and it gives each of those brands an opportunity to get to that right customer. Same thing for, and I recently just noticed this for the City Furniture and IKEA. They're all together. Ashley Furniture, City Furniture, they're all together. And so even if you go to like districts in New York or like all of the same, like we go down to Mills, all of the great Asian foods, like it's not just, I think it's not competition. I think we think about it like a community. It changes the perspective.
That's super, super insightful.
I'm not always perfect though. So that little monster does come out.
Do you have a name for your monster?
Oh my God, yes. Her name's Sasha.
Sasha?
Yeah, she's fierce. She's fierce.
An ode to Beyonce.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah.
Our last question of the day is, be honest. What's one business decision, and maybe let's open it up. Let's broaden that a bit, whether that's a business decision or maybe it was a personal life decision that you made early on that today you completely regret, even if it seemed like the right move at the time?
Yeah, so many decisions. Oh my God, so many decisions. Oh God. I've got so many stories. If there's like a money one that you want to hear of, like the worst money decision I've ever made, I spent $60,000 on wine. Okay. Or like
there a close up of camera, my expression.
Yeah. $60,000 on
wine.
grapes. It's actually they're not even harvested yet. It's like, I think I own some plot of land in California.
Is it a vineyard?
It's not. I don't own the vineyard. I didn't purchase a vineyard. I purchased the future grapes of vineyards.
No.
It's the most stupid. It's so ridiculous. Oh God. I gotta go check it out. $60,000 that I spent on. I have this really great business. I love this business concept. This wine company that I wanted to start years ago. And a woman that I'm invested into her vineyards and her company, I shared this business idea with her. And she was like, well, let's do it. But in order for this company to launch, like you can't just buy grape. Like you have to buy the rights to the grapes, so the access to the wine. And so we're like, oh, this project's going to come out like 3 years from now. And so I ended up making that business decision. And I usually am very, and so I want to share that. And this was post like middle of my journey. So it's not like I was like this new novice, like here we go. And it's not like I had made all the money that I can just afford to lose. I don't think anyone can afford to lose the $60,000. But I do have an investment in grapes somewhere that I think I'm gonna hopefully be able to like salvage and sell those grapes, or we're all gonna be drinking.
What's the timeline?
A lot of wine.
Are we like a decade away from this?
I think it's gonna be like next year. But
okay.
Let's see.
Stay tuned.
Know. So that's a really bad business decision that I did make. Another really bad, I can name so many bad decisions.
Give us another.
Decisions. Oh my God, so many bad business decisions. One of the worst things that I feel like I like literally will still wake up in the middle of the night thinking about. I once sent an email. So we had this huge corporate, it was our first banking client for stocks. So we were in the small business sector. And then we moved into enterprise selling, which was like larger customers who were selling into the big banks. And we had gotten in with this really large credit union here in Florida. So I won't say the name of it. And we spent 9 months on the sales cycle. We spent almost all of our like dollars, resources on like building technology, getting all the stuff for them to be like our first big enterprise client. So because this was the pilot, the big one, we invested time, dollars, energy, our entire C-suite, like all the things. And then at like the umpteenth hour, they decided that they weren't going to, pursue the contract. But they didn't, like, after all of the time, it wasn't like I got a chance to, like, the team that I was working with, it was like the C-suite. It was a very quick of like an email that was sent that was like this group-wide email saying, that they're no longer going to pursue we're at the final stages, but it doesn't feel like it's the right time for them. And so respectfully, we're going to wait and we'll revisit next year. And in that moment, your girl was really upset. And so, little monster
Sasha?
inside. Yeah, she comes out.
Sasha came out.
Actually, Sasha's my fierce one. It's Serena who's
Serena.
Yeah, yes, it's Serena who's I've got multiple
We
names.
have multiple.
Yeah, we do. So I start writing this email. Nothing good happens when you are emotional and you're pulling out a laptop to write, by the way. So that is something.
Little
tip right there. So I write out this huge email and I share in a very like passive aggressive tone. So I was still professional.
Sure.
I want to find it. I wish I could find it. But I write this huge email just being like, well, this is all the resources that we put in and this is how like your team did this. And like, it was just a lot of words. And pretty much at the end, like signing off that they should be ashamed of themselves, like as like a community partner, like this is how they treat like startups and whatever. Like you just wasted all these startup resources. So like, go fuck yourself. Like that was respectfully go fuck yourself. And of course I reread it like 100 times. And then, it's like that moment where you're just like press the button laptop down impulse. And you like walk away. You're like, it's fucking going out. Sent it, done. And literally it wasn't even like 90 seconds later, my phone rings from my mentor. And it's Kelly, who you've heard me talk about, who I gave the best piece of advice a couple episodes ago, which was like relationships are everything. Yeah. And she's like, retract that fucking email. And she wasn't even on it. So somebody already forwarded it to her. And I was like, I can't fucking retract it. And so she was like, okay, let it pass. She's making some phone calls. And then I formally sent an apology note thereafter. But I wish I could take it back. But we all have to go through those experiences. And the lesson there is you're not going to win at everything. Mm. Right? And we're so entitled. I was so entitled to winning.
Yeah.
Like I needed to fall on my face. I needed to have a loss. Like you need your losses to really celebrate those wins. So we all have to lose. Like we can't always be winning all the time. That's not how life works. Mm. That was a moment that is of sportsmanship. Like I have to accept the loss.
Right.
Right. And it doesn't mean it's a forever loss. I just lost the game. Right? I didn't lose the championship. Sure. You just lost a game. So be a good sport and shake hands and say thank you. Right. And be humble about it. Right. And from there, even how you exit, people remember those things. It's how you exit. And so that was like a very big lesson that I had to learn the hard way. Every time that I want to write an email, I'll write it out.
Do you think about this moment?
do. And what I do now, my trick is like I'll write it, but I won't put the email on the CC or like I won't put it in there. And that way it's like out of my –
You get it out. Kind of like writing those letters.
Yeah. I get it out and then I delete it. And then I usually end up backspacing it all and just writing thank you. Like it can be short and you can just accept the loss. So that was a really big
Words
lesson.
of wisdom.
Big
Words
lesson.
of wisdom.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for answering all those questions. I'm sure your listeners are going to love to hear your answers. They were honest, transparent, insightful.
Well, thank you actually for – see, it's so much better when somebody asks. We are for sure getting somebody into the studio here every time. So be ready and we're going to be doing more of this. If you guys enjoyed today's episode – please, 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 please let us know. I would love for you to share this episode. I would love for you to leave us a review. We are growing the show. We think this is such an incredible space for female entrepreneurs. So invite your friends to tune in and listen. And I'd love to hear what was your favorite takeaway. Yeah, what was your favorite takeaway from today's episode? come back to the stories. We are definitely engaging with all of you. Thank you so much for submitting the most fun questions. There's nothing that's ever offline. I hope I can be a resource for you and just be honest. And so I'm not perfect, but this has been my journey, and I hope to be a part of yours. And until next week, I'll see you on CEO School.